There are basically four ways that you make money as a real estate investor: cash flow, appreciation, amortization, and tax benefits. I get asked by people all the time, how do we apply those principles if you're investing in online real estate? Now, first, what is online real estate? I'm not talking virtual real estate here. I'm talking about fractionalized real estate that you can go online, participate in ownership of these rental properties, and receive some or many of the benefits of traditional ownership, but not always all of them. So cash flow is pretty obvious. What kind of income is the property bringing in? Appreciation is also pretty obvious. Appreciation just means how much is the property increasing in value. We're not going to have so much of that on online real estate. You're buying more of the cash flow. Now, amortization is another one, a way that you make money in real estate investing, and that's basically by paying off whatever mortgage you have if you're using leverage and you levered property and you have a mortgage on it. Over time, you start to pay that mortgage down with your payments, and then that increases your equity position. That's another way to make money. Now, the tax benefits are pretty obvious. You've got depreciation. That is huge in real estate. Now, on a lot of these platforms, you don't necessarily get depreciation. Some of them you do, but some of them you don't. If they're organized more as a REIT, the depreciation is going to be taken early on the taxes before the income is distributed to you. So you still participate in some depreciation on that, but you don't get to see it on your tax forms. So on most of these platforms, you guys, I think what you're investing in is you're investing in the cash flow long term. You're buying into the cash flow of these properties. And you have to analyze that and say, does this make sense? Am I going to get a good rate of return on my investment over time to make it worthwhile investing in these properties online? So in this video, I'm going to show you 5 things that I do when I'm looking at these properties on how I analyze them. My name's Brian Johnson. I'm a real estate broker, and I've been a real estate broker my whole life. This channel is about investing in online real estate. So it's a very unique space, you guys. It's a newer, emerging space. You've probably heard of Landy. You've probably heard of Lofta. You've probably heard of Arrived Homes. A lot more of these platforms are coming onto the market in the future, and it's a big part of real estate. So it's a way that you can invest in real estate online. You don't have to have good credit. You don't have to have great income. You don't have to present your birth certificate or your dog. All you need to do is go through some KYC, which is know your customer. Nothing can be anonymous. So you have to go through some KYC on these platforms simply to prove who you are. And it's mostly just going to be uploading a copy of your driver's license for your identity. And that protects you, it protects them, but it's required. If that stops you, you're not going to be able to participate. So just so you know that you're going to be required to do that on all of these platforms. Now, the first thing you want to do, I think, and this is my professional opinion on this, on these platforms, I would stay away from the coasts or marquee locations. Now, the reason for that is, yeah, you can make money if you're buying a rental property on the coasts. But remember, on the coast, so if you look at the US, you have the center of the country, then you have the coasts. You get more appreciation on the coasts, and then the center of the country, you get better cash flow on your properties. Most of these platforms are actually going to be focused more in the center of the country. They're not necessarily coastals, but some are, especially the ones that are doing vacation rentals, and I think that's highly risky. Now, if you were buying a property, just physically, you were going to go buy a rental house, high appreciation markets can work. And the way that you would do that right now is you would go look at those markets and see the ones that have gone down the most over the last year. I think Seattle was something like 26 or some percent. It went down in the last year. So those big marquee markets, they've taken some big hits down. And then you would go in there and find a pocket neighborhood that you liked at a depreciated price, lowball that and get in. But that's not what happens with these properties and these platforms. So you're going to get more of the center of the country, but that's good because you get better cash flow on these properties, and that's where you're going to get your return. Now, the second strategy that I use, and you need to use this too, this is critical, and you must know your numbers. Basic numbers on investing in real estate. You must be able to look at the rent, look at the property value, and know, hey, this property is going to rent for $1,200 a month, but they're asking $700,000 just off the top of that just doesn't work. But on the other hand, if you ever saw a property that was renting for $3,000 a month is being offered for $400,000, you need to know that right off the bat. Is that a good ratio? Does that even make sense? I can look at a property like that. Just tell me those two numbers. Yeah, if there's a big middle of the market that I don't know on that property if it makes sense. But if you told me a property will rent for $1,200 a month, but you're asking $600,000 for it, I'm going to tell you I'm not interested in that investment unless I get to dictate some pretty severe terms. On the other hand, like I said earlier, you tell me this property will rent for $3,000 a month and you're asking $300,000 for it, I'd probably buy that sight unseen, all cash on the spot, lever it up, take some money out, keep the cash flow, and take the money I refinanced out of it and put it into another property. I wouldn't even need to see the property to do that. So that's that middle ground that you're going to have some more unknowns on those numbers where you have to look at the cash flow to see if it makes sense. And you need to be able to know those numbers. You need to be able to look at rents and then take out property taxes, take out other expenses and financial expenses, property management fees. You want to know, hey, what's a good property management fee? I can tell you if you're doing vacation rentals and they're charging 25% property management fee, that's way too high. They should be around 15%. If you're looking at a platform and they're charging a 8 or 10% management fee on single family long-term rentals, hey, that's right in line with where property management fees are. But you need to look at the details and see, are they charging 15% on single family rentals, paying the property management company 8%, and then pocketing the 6% difference? I would want to know that on these platforms, and a couple of them do that. I think on here.co, they do that, and it really bugs me. I think it's way too out of line on the fees. But we'll get to the fees in a minute. I'm going to show you some stuff there. But when you're running the numbers, let me tell you, if you're new to real estate, Chat GPT and AI is your friend. You can ask it some pretty basic questions about investments, and it's going to give you some really good numbers that will help you out. So let me show you an example right here. All right, so here I am in Chat GPT, and my question, look at the top. I'm investing $1,500 into fractionalized real estate. I will receive $123 in rent the first year. What's my cash on cash return? And it will give you a nice breakdown on what a cash on cash return ratio looks like, the math. It'll do the numbers for you. It tells you on this investment, you'd be getting an 8.2% cash on cash return. I would look at this investment as a pretty good investment if I can get that kind of return. So what's the next question I want to ask it? What is my return if the rent is increased to $127? So in other words, what if the rent goes up 3 or 4% a year, which it should? When renewals come for leases, the rent should go up. Your investment stays the same, but if the rent goes up, now what's my return? Simple answer. Now it's up to 8.47%. And I'm doing it again. What if the rent increases to $135? Going down here, now we're at a 9% return. So we can get even more detailed. Look at this question. This is great for ChatGPT. Create a table showing my initial investment of $1,500 with the first year of rent being $123 and the rent going up 3% per year. Show my yearly cash on cash return and show how my initial investment will grow if it didn't do it, if I add each year's rent to the initial investment. So what I was looking for is compounding formulas, and it didn't provide that in this case, but it did tell me something else. So if you ask it to compound stuff in this format, I can tell you it can be a nightmare. You're going to get some goofy answers. But this is nice right here. Year one, the rent's $123. I get an 8.2% cash on cash return. Now I've got $1,623 from my $1,500 investment. Then it's done each year. The rent goes up at 3% a year, 126, 130, 133, 137. And you can see how it's showing my investment growing. And this is even if I didn't compound it. So if I just took that rent and just kept it in the bank or in my wallet, my $1,500 in 10 years would be worth $2,895. Now, the strategy on these properties, you guys, is I would not take that money out and put it into another investment. I would be taking that rent every year. If I'm getting 8.3% return on cash return on the rents, I would be taking that monthly rental income that I'm receiving from the platform and be buying additional tokens in those properties and let it compound and grow over time. If you do that, there can be some fantastic returns over the 5, 7, or 10-year period of compounding your returns like that. So I would stay out of commercial on these platforms, you guys. One thing about commercial, and this is what would kill it. Let's say you're on a platform and you're buying a small commercial property, like one of these fractionalized platforms. And let's say it's a small property. You've got commercial up front. You've got 2 units, residential apartments above it. That I wouldn't do any of these properties on here. Now, the big reason why is because when you have commercial vacancies, they can last 6 months or a year easily. I think I just read the other day that 50% of Fortune 500 tenants, right, or tenants right now, companies are looking to downsize their space. So a lot of really nice commercial space is vacant and is going to stay vacant. So cheaper commercial people can move up to nicer commercial. And, on these platforms, when you see a mom and pop shop, there's going to be that cheaper commercial space, storefronts, places where you'd put a yoga studio or an architect's or some, little office. If that goes vacant and you have 6 months of vacancies, it really just destroys your numbers. So I would stay away from any commercial properties on any of these platforms right now. In about 2 years, though, I would be looking at commercial if commercial is starting to heat up again. Now, I kind of say this on REITs too. On big scale REITs like Fundrise, if they're heavily into commercial, you're going to see very flat returns. They've seen flat returns on Fundrise for the last year. You're going to continue to see that when they're so heavily exposed to the commercial market and all these vacancies coming up. They're just not going to get the kind of returns that you're looking for. So stay out of commercial when you're looking for online investing on these smaller platforms. So it's really important that you understand the fee structure of these platforms, how they're making money and what they're charging you for, and what the actual purchase price of the property you're investing in is. Basically, they'll have a purchase price they may display on their website that they're purchasing it for, but that's not the value that you're investing in. There's going to be a different purchase price for you than what they acquired the property for. That's why I say that the appreciation gains on these platforms aren't going to be so great. On a lot of these, I've done the math on them, and there's actually no exit strategy, at least for 7 to 10 years. They say 4 or 5 years on the ones that say they have an exit strategy. They're being dishonest on that. I think that's my professional opinion, because when I run the math on these properties of what they bought them for and what they're worth today, then you add the fees on it, see what the value is you're investing in. You won't get out of some of these platforms, some of these properties for basically 7 or 10 years, and that's just to the break-even point. So you need to know how to look at these to basically do that analysis and see, are these fees in line, and can I get out of this investment, or am I locked in with a poor return? So let me show you one right here on how I look at the fees. A lot of these are registered with the SEC, and when they are, you can look at the circulars. The SEC circulars is basically, they have to be on their front page. It's very public. And you can look at that and see what they're charging on their fees. So we're going to drop in right here. I'm going to show you 2 of them I don't like. There's on here.co and on Arrived. So let's drop into that and let me show you. So here is here.co. So here.co is a fractionalized real estate platform. You invest in their properties. They're doing vacation rentals. I did a really nice review on this platform and really broke down this fee structure and why I don't like it. But let me show you how you look at this. So here's their front page. And what you would do is, I hope you don't get dizzy, I'm going to scroll to the very bottom. And right here in all this gobbledygook and all this information, if you can see this line right here, the issuer is conducting public offerings pursuant to Regulation A under the Securities Act of 1993 as amended. The most current offering circular for here collection is available here. You can click on this. So this is their filing with the SEC. Let's go look at Series 17. That's one of their properties. There's a name for it, but this is called Series 17. So if you go down here on this one, let's just go to, I think it's use of proceeds. I click on that. Here we go. So here's how I look at this right here. Net purchase price, it's $504,000. That's the purchase price. And then all of the rest of this are fees being added on. So their purchase, the initial price of this property right now, or if this is the initial offering, they're buying this property for $504,000. And then you're buying in at a price of $879,000. But here's how that breaks down. $504,000, adding on to that $8,700 in brokerage commissions. This is added on to that. There was already commissions paid at $5,400 and probably a referral fee. Okay, anticipated furnishing and repairs, fine, $160,000. They're doing something to the property. They're turning these into vacation rentals, so they're buying furniture. Maybe they're installing a pool. I don't know on this property. Then they've got offering expenses of $40,000. That seems a little high, but there's a lot of legal documentation fees for filing this stuff with the SEC. That is expensive, the lawyers and all that stuff. So that's real. I get that. You have an operating reserve here of $34,000. Fine. That should be the owners of the property. The investors own that money because it's just cash in the bank. If it's held, it should be held in a separate account or a separate bank account for just this property. That should be the owned money of the property investors. But then look at this right here. Service fee, number 4, $131,000 service fee. That is just ridiculous, you guys. Look at number 4. Represents a fee payable to here, the company, in connection with the search and negotiations of the property purchase and coordination of the work needed to prepare the property for rental. Totally ridiculous, you guys. They're pulling these properties off the MLS. They're probably getting an assignment fee from the real estate broker that's selling them these properties if they're not brokering it themselves. They're adding on a crap ton of commissions on here, and then they're charging a $131,000 fee to basically supervise whatever little construction project they're doing on these properties to install furniture. They're pocketing a pile of money. I think this is absolutely ridiculous on these fees. You'll never get out of these properties, and they are charging a brutal property management fee. And then their circular, I'm not going to look it up right here. You should look this up. They have the right to charge up to a 25% fee. I read that in one of their disclosures on property management, which is completely way out of line. So that's what you need to do to look at these. Now let's go ahead and look at another one. So here's Arrived Homes. I like the platform, but I just think some of the things don't work, because I look at this property right here, and I'll show you how I would do my analysis on the fees on this. So I'm looking here, monthly rent is $16.95. That's what it's going to rent for. They're purchasing it for $270,000, but investors, that's not our purchase price. $270,000 is their initial price. They're purchasing this property. But if you go down here, let me show you. Oh, right here, this is important. A 3.7% rent yield. And that's optimistic, you guys. I don't think anyone's even going to be getting this on this property. I'll show you why. Let's see. Keep going down. And you're going to get down. This is some financials, but you're going to get down here to the offering circular in the series overview. If you click on those, you're going to pull this up right here. Now, this is, again, I showed you the SEC thing on here.co. Now, here we've got it for Arrived on this property. And there's one thing here that I wanted to show you that's super important. It's the in exchange for advancing cash, Arrived Home Series Lewis, that's the name of the house, the Lewis, has issued a promissory note to the manager in the amount of $294,000, which will have a term of 18 months. That's important. And will bear interest at the minimum AFR in effect as of the date of issuance. So the minimum interest rate that they can charge, if you look it up online, in March of 23 this year was 4.5% interest. Okay, so here's a problem. So if I look at this, here, just pull up a mortgage calc. $294,000 at 4.5% interest is $1,495 a month in interest. Let's go back to the house. Let's go back up to the top. They're renting this out for $1,695. $1,495 is going just towards here.co, one of the managers, probably the owner of the company. I'm sorry, not here, but Arrived. $1,500 basically at 4.5% interest is the payment. They're underwater right now. So what are they doing with that? If they close on this property and you invest in it, it says a 3.5% rent return. So that means they're not even making that payment. I don't see how they can be making that payment to the member, the owner, who's fronting that money on an 18-month promissory note. What happens at the end of 18 months? At the end of 18 months, what happened? These 14, I assume, now this is my guess. As a broker, this is my guess. I'll bet you that $1,495 a month is not being paid to the member or the owner. I bet you that's just being held back and going to be added on to refinance at a later date. Because if they're paying out $1,494 a month and it rents for $1,695 a month, you're in the underwater, in the black. This is an alligator. You're in the red, and this is an alligator from day one, and you'll have negative cash flow. They're saying there's positive cash flow, so I guarantee you, I can't guarantee it, but I'll tell you, this $1,494, they're probably just going to add that on to the $294 that they owe the member. So how does that even work? $1,494 a month. Let's just go to my calculator. $1,494 a month for 18 months is almost $27,000. So what's going to happen? That $27,000, they're probably going to add it to refinance it. But the problem is, see, here's the problem. This platform, I think, was doing well, really well during the last few years. Unfortunately, the last few years, appreciation gains in properties were unheard of, historic, an anomaly. They'll never happen again. So if you're increasing your property values at 15 or 20% per year, which we were doing, this platform can make a little bit of sense. But now we've hit a brick wall. You should hear a big crash right now because they're keeping their fee structure in place, and properties are not going to be going up by that rate. So this property right here, remember, they're buying it for $270,000. They're going to put, I think it said in their fees that they were putting $15,000 to fix the property up. So maybe it's worth $290,000, but then they're going to rent this out for the next few years. And then in 18 months, they have to refinance out that $294,000 at least. So what's that going to cost them? If you go, mortgage calculator, you guys, is your friend. That's the minimum interest the government requires them to charge. They can charge more. This is just minimum interest government requires on loans. But if you were to go right now and get an 80% non-owner occupied loan, that's going to be at 6%. That payment's going to go to $1,767 a month right here. You see that at 6%, not including taxes, not including insurance, not including HOA, not including repairs, not including utilities, not including accounting, not including all of the little things that it costs to run a property. And their payment is going to be $1,767. I think they were counting on this property going up in value according to their previous model during the last few years of 15 or 20% a year, and that would be their escape route. Yeah. So the rents will go up over time. They will, I'll give them that. But I just looking at this, you guys, this doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. I wouldn't invest in this property. You need to look at each one of these properties on all of these platforms exactly like I'm showing you right here. You need to know these numbers. So that's a little bit on the fee structure, you guys. I hope that helps. Now let's get into the next most important part. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about, and this is super important, another way to, just besides the fee structure, do your research. So any property that you're going to purchase into, this is what I would do. Whenever someone sends me a property, whether it's on one of these platforms or if it's one of my investor clients, I'm going to pull things up on public platforms because that's what everyone's looking at. Public platforms like Realtor and Zillow.com and all that are usually pulling information somewhat from the MLS. Some of them do more of the MLS pull. Some of them use more algorithmic stuff. But I look at all of them on these properties to see what's right, what's wrong, and see if I can get an indication of what the other properties like this are selling for. So there's some ways you can do that without having to access the MLS. So let me show you the public ways. So here's a property that I own that's in Spokane. I'm pulling it up on Realtor.com. Now, the information on here isn't always accurate. I can tell you that right now. The value-wise, $455. That's probably pretty close. I might be able to get $485 for it. Depends on things about the property and when I was trying to do that. But I'd give it a value between $455 and $485. But I would just look at that here. You can get some information up here about it. Now, Realtor.com, they do some comparables, but I wanted to show you this right here, you guys, because these comparables, I know this area, are out of area, so it's not a good comparable. So I wouldn't look at Realtor.com for the comparables on this. But I still like to look at Realtor.com because you can look at the price history, what it sold for. So this is pretty accurate. In 2020, my price was about $280,000. It's off on the mortgage. That's fine. But you can get some information about the schools. Here's the local schools. These are all excellent schools. There's actually better ratings than this out there. But this is nice to know this if you were looking to invest in this property. You see this right here. Then you can get to a map, see exactly where the property's at. And then you can get some other home values. I don't think this is so great. So I'm going to also pull it up on Zillow. Now, here's the same property on Zillow, like I said. Now, what I like about Zillow, it's the same information. You can scroll through here and see their values. They give it a whole different value. Their estimate was $429, so I can tell you that's off. But if I'm going down here, they have a nice little thing here for the comparables, and this is what's important. And they have a nice map to show you where they are. So on the Realtor.com, it didn't show you those comparables like this. So I like this because I can tell you, in my area, it's really important for this house in the center, which is the subject property, that you aren't going what's called off of 5 Mile, which is a big mesa, and you want to compare it to only properties up here. So I could look on the map and see, okay, here's the comparable properties up in this neighborhood, and then I can go up here. Why is that blue? And then click through, and these are better comps than they were on Realtor.com. I can tell you these are way closer to my area because they're up here on the hill. So another one that I really like that I'm going to pull up, I'm going to show you guys right here. This is HomeSnap, homesnap.com. I'll have the links to all of these in the description below, by the way. So I always pull everything up on HomeSnap. Now, I know a lot of realtors hate HomeSnap. It works behind the scenes with some MLSs, and it actually isn't very good behind the scenes, but it has good historic information. So I would pull this up on HomeSnap. Now you can see it's giving it a different value of $428. This is pretty accurate right here, this information. I had to fix it on Zillow. Zillow pulled inaccurate information here. It says I'm least likely to list, probably because I have a low interest rate mortgage. Now it shows property history now this is funny. Remember I showed you before, it showed I purchased it at $280. It doesn't show that on here. If you were just looking on HomeSnap, you wouldn't see that. Now you can pull up mortgages, and I'm going to pull it up, and I'm going to show you. This is off. It shows I have a first and a second this is off. I can just tell you that right now. So I don't always take this information as the truth of information. I'm showing you this right here to show you that I know that the financing on this property is different than what it says here. But it shows the current owner. It has a nice property analysis or property summary. But HomeSnap has something else, and I do really like this, and it has a rental analysis. This is actually pretty accurate. It gives me an estimated rental analysis of $2,737, high of $3,000. This is true. This is spot on. If I was to rent my property up here on 5 Mile right now, this property I own, I would absolutely be renting this out for $2,800 a month. And HomeSnap has this spot on. Going down, you can see some more information on schools like you saw on the other ones. And then you can go to similar listings to see what's for sale right now that's similar. And I can tell you, these are up on the hill because there's a lot of new construction by that property. So this is great, you guys. This is some really good information here to see, okay, these properties are the comps that are for sale right now. And then going down here, one more, You can go to the recent sales. Now, this is critical. This is super important information. It gives you a sold date. This is a long time ago, right? So you want to look at the sold date and the price. And obviously I can see, do these houses compare? They're similar to the house that I'm talking about. And I'm going to go down here. There's more closer sale dates. 434 contingent. Sold in February for 450. Sold on October. That's getting too far back. You only want to go back 3 months if you can. 3 months or sooner on this stuff. So that's HomeSnap, you guys. That's really a good tool. Also, one cool thing about HomeSnap on your phone is if you just take your phone and aim it at a house on HomeSnap, it'll pull this up just by having your phone pulling geotagging. It will pull the information just by aiming your phone at the property. That's why it's called HomeSnap, because you can just snap a picture with your phone and it will pull this analysis up for you. Now, the other thing that I always look at for a property is going to be on what's called RentCast. Now, RentCast is, I think, owned by DealCheck. I'm going to get to that in a second. But RentCast will show you, it basically is like pulling up some comparable rents, like an MLS for rents. It's not an MLS for rents. There isn't one, but it does that. It pulls up nearby rents. So pull this up here for this property I was talking about that I showed you. HomeSnap said it could rent for $2,700 a month. So let me type in the address. There we go. Pull this up. What property type? It's a single family house. It is 4-bedroom. It is 3 baths. And it's just put 2,000 square feet. It's a few more than that, but let's just go ahead and put that in here. So this is showing me a rental here of $2,480 a month. And it shows me the comps. I would look down here at these comps and I would see when did they rent, listing date, going back October. This is the one I like the most, obviously, because these are higher. But February, one of my comps is at $3,200. In March, one of my comps, March of 23. So these are old, you guys. Even these are old. 25, this 21. Not similarities are interesting. So I would always pull this up. I think this is a little bit low, but it's another source of information. There is not one ring to rule them all, like of real estate sites that gives you all the information you need. You're going to need to go onto multiple sites because there's massive amounts of inaccuracies, and I think I've showed that here. So what you want to do is by pulling it up on multiple platforms, pulling up the rent on both RentCast and on HomeSnap, doing some averaging. This is how you learn the market and you can learn the values. If you really want to learn values, the best way to learn values if you're not a real estate agent is to pick a neighborhood and start going to the open houses in that neighborhood. Write down the price, and then every week go and estimate what you think it's going to sell for. And every week go look at the new open houses, write down the price, what they're asking for, estimate. And then after a couple months, those houses will sell. You can pull them up on these sources I showed you or call a real estate broker, but they're all public information. Pull them up. And then when you get within 5% values, like if you can guess, okay, I've been in this open house, you go into an open house, I've been in 50 open houses like this, I'm pretty close on my guessing. I estimate this open house, this property will sell for $325. In a couple months, you'll look it up. What did it sell for? When you can guess that within 5%, you know the market. You're as good as me. You're as good as any broker out there. And you can do that simply by going to open houses, estimate the price that you think it's going to sell for, look it up in a few months. And when you're getting within 5%, you're good to go. Now, there's two other places I'm going to show you that I look at. The other thing is I go to DealCheck. I love DealCheck. It's a paid software. There's a link in the description below for this, and it is an affiliate link. You get a bonus. I get a bonus if you sign up. I use this tool on properties all the time, and I send these reports to my clients. You put in the property, you put in the information, and it gives you massive breakdowns on everything about the finances on this property. I'm not going to go through this. I could do a 10-video series on how to read these reports. But as you can see right here, this is the kind of analysis it's doing. It's giving you cap rates. It's giving return on equity, return on investments. So this is that same property I showed you that I have, you guys. At the current purchase price, this property is totally underwater. It wouldn't make sense. Look at all the red. Horrible return on equity, horrible return on investment. The IRR is horrible. The cash on cash return is horrible. And that's basically, this system is going to use that rental analysis from RentCast that it owns. It's going to pull that in and compare it to the property information that I put in, the purchase price and all that, and give really detailed analysis. There's also a free version of DealCheck you can use, and you can use that for a pretty detailed analysis just for free, just for signing up. You don't get the full extensive report, but you really don't need it, you guys. The free version of DealCheck gives you a ton of information that will really help you. Then the last thing I look at, and this is true in almost every county in the U.S., is I pull up the county website. Real estate is done at the county level in the U.S. It's not done at the state level, and it's not done at the city level. Real estate is done at the county level. So pull up your local county website for real estate. and just type it in, whatever county you're in, real estate, appraiser site, whatever the terms you guys use. Now let me show you what it would be in mine, just so you can see what it looks like. Let's put that address in. So here we go. I pull this property up on my county website. Every county is going to be different, but you can find out licensing issues, permits in the past, public safety utilities, what school districts, maps. But on mine, this is going to be true of a lot of county websites. Not that one. I want to go to more. So this was just the county public information of the property. So it just gives you a good breakdown of the information, especially the taxes, what the taxes were the last few years. Every county is going to be different on what they disclose, but I just would look it up, any property, look up the public records in the county website. So those are the 5 steps I take when I'm looking at these properties. If you would like a review of a platform that I really like called Lofty, click on this link right here. They have the cash flow and they have some appreciation plays. And another platform I like is Landa. Click on that link right here. And for me, I think there's a straight cash appreciation play, and I like them too.